I was watching a friend scroll through Netflix the other night, paralyzed by that familiar, endless grid of thumbnails.
Yeah.
She hovered over a gritty crime thriller from Seoul, considered a sci-fi drama from Germany, and finally settled on a reality show from the US. To her, this was just a way to decompress after work, a passive, trivial choice about how to spend the next hour.
Right.
She looked relaxed, completely zoned out, convinced she was just consuming content. But as I watched her interact with that interface, I realized I was looking at something much heavier than simple entertainment. I wasn't just seeing a menu of movies. I was watching international diplomacy happen in real time, right there in her living room.
That's a fascinating way to put it.
She wasn't being persuaded by a government manifesto or a politician's speech. She was being quietly steered by an algorithm that prioritizes watch time over ideology. It struck me that while we still think of global power as something negotiated in the UN or the White House, the real battlefield has shifted to this exact moment, this silent, invisible feedback loop between her thumb and a corporate server. She thought she was just picking a show, but in reality, she was letting a platform rearrange her political sensibilities without even noticing.
And that moment you're describing, that feedback loop, is really the core of what we're going to unpack today, isn't it?
Exactly. The whole theme of this deep dive is how global power has just, fundamentally shifted.
We're looking at a world where culture isn't just a side dish to diplomacy anymore.
No, it is the diplomacy.
Yeah.
But it's messy, it's decentralized, and it's all happening inside these platforms we use every day.
Right. It's generated by this entanglement of algorithms, our own identities, and of course, global markets.
So we're definitely moving past that old 20th century idea of soft power, where you measured influence by how many people watched your movies or ate your hamburgers.
It's so much more sophisticated now. So our mission today is really to analyze the strategic pivot, this shift away from that organic model.
Right. And toward leveraging, cutting edge digital tech, global platforms, and entertainment that's specifically designed for the market. It's all about reshaping international perceptions on a massive scale.
And it's not just about making popular stuff. It's a very deliberate top-down strategy designed for this digital age.
Okay, so let's unpack that shift. It probably makes sense to start with the classic framework. When we talk about soft power, you almost have to start with Joseph Nye, the guy who coined the term.
Right. You have to.
So how did he define it? And why was that original definition, a challenge for a centralized state that's really focused on stability?
Well, Nye's definition boils down to a country's ability to shape what others want. It's about attraction, not coercion. And crucially, that attraction is supposed to come from the appeal of a country's culture, its political values, its policies.
It's about creating a lifestyle that other people look at and say, I want that.
Exactly. And for that to really work in the classic sense, you need a vibrant, sometimes messy civil society. You need that completely free flow of ideas, of art, of unpredictable expression, what you might call organic soft power.
And that right there is the tension, isn't it?
It's the core tension. If you're a government that prioritizes societal stability above all else, if you have a top-down approach to maintain order and drive development,
then that unpredictable, messy, organic stuff becomes a problem, or at least a challenge to manage.
It's a huge challenge.
Yeah.
The system itself is designed to value stability and national goals over that, completely freewheeling, sometimes contradictory flow of ideas that you see in a lot of Western popular culture.
So if the internal structure kind of limits that free flow, another approach is needed.
A different approach was necessary, yeah. And that leads directly to this state-led strategy. It's intensely top-down, and it's focused on strategically controlling and shaping how the culture is conveyed to the outside world.
With a very clear goal.
A very clear goal: to aggressively invest in digital trade and entertainment, to rebrand the nation as this modern, technologically sophisticated world power. It's about permanently shedding that old image of being an impoverished, backward nation.
And that whole refocus is, it's laid out in detail in the strategic blueprints coming from Beijing. You can see it in the new era soft power plans from around 2012. It's a very phased, long-term approach.
It's incredibly meticulous. The initial plan was broken down into 3 strategic phases. The first was basically a diagnosis.
Where are we now?
Exactly. Identifying the cultural influence gap compared to other global powers. The second phase then got more specific, promoting soft power across 5 key areas.
Which were?
Economic influence, political alignment, cultural output, social cohesion, and environmental leadership.
And the final phase, the end goal.
The end goal is the big one. It's the ambitious goal of establishing the China model as a viable, attractive alternative on the world stage. A framework founded in core socialist values, but designed, they hope, to have universal appeal.
And these long-term objectives are really long-term. This isn't just a 5-year plan.
Absolutely not. You can see it in the official documents. They're laying out objectives all the way to 2035, and then even more strategic goals for 2050.
Wow.
The ultimate ambition is to significantly boost national strength across every dimension, economic, tech, cultural, to achieve this, well-balanced soft and hard power status globally, especially in East Asia by the time the PRC turns 100.
I think a really vital piece of this, the economic engine driving the cultural ambition, is that pivot away from just high-speed growth.
Yes.
Which was the story for decades. Now the focus is on what they call high-quality economic growth.
That phrase is so important. It's the foundation for this whole new soft power strategy. High-speed growth was about, cheap labor, mass manufacturing. That has its limits.
It's run its course, in a way.
Exactly. High-quality growth is defined by a shift to innovation, high-end IP production, cutting-edge tech. It's why all this investment in the digital sector, AI, 5G, quantum computing, high-quality digital entertainment, is non-negotiable for them.
Because it's proof of the model.
It's the proof. It shows that the country can be a model for the new digital economy, that it can transform its infrastructure. And that technological prowess, that becomes a source of admiration in itself. It's a powerful part of soft power, right alongside military strength or raw GDP.
So the centerpiece of this exported idea, the dream they're selling, is the China dream. And that's very deliberately positioned as an alternative to the American dream.
Very deliberately. The China dream, which was formalized around 2012, is all about the nation's long-term rejuvenation. It's a collectivist idea, not an individualistic one.
Right. It's not about one person pulling themselves up by their bootstraps.
No, its core is the incredible success story of rapid, state-led development, specifically the achievement of lifting, nearly 1 billion people out of poverty in just a few decades.
And the message they're exporting with that story, especially to the developing world, is pretty powerful.
It's profound. The message is essentially, your country can do this too. You can replicate the success by following a similar coordinated model. It's all about national responsibility, collective success, and providing a stable future for the next generation.
It presents itself as this successful, replicable blueprint.
Mm-hmm.
And when you put that next to what can be perceived as, political chaos, partisan fighting, and social instability in some established Western democracies.
The China model can look like a very safe, predictable, and stable alternative.
Yeah.
And that's the strategy. It reframes the country's rise not as a threat, but as an aspirational model for other nations to adopt. That's how you generate soft power from a governance model.
Okay, this brings us to the actual hard infrastructure that makes this all possible, digital trade. This is a fascinatingly double-sided strategy.
It is. It's extremely shrewd. It deploys really heavy protectionism at home,
while pushing for the exact opposite, global liberalization abroad.
Exactly. Let's start with the domestic side, because that's what built their tech champions in the first place.
So domestically, the environment is incredibly restrictive.
It's one of the most restrictive in the world for digital trade. I mean, if you look at indices from organizations like the OECD, its restrictiveness score is more than double the global average.
And what does that mean in practice?
It means heavy restrictions on digital service imports, strict data localization rules. So foreign companies have to store Chinese user data on Chinese soil. And of course, aggressive limits on foreign access to platforms and information.
So why do that? Why be so protectionist when your goal is to be a global tech leader?
The logic is purely strategic. It's nation building. This protectionism is what allowed their massive domestic tech champions to grow. We're talking Tencent, Alibaba, Huawei, and ByteDance, the parent of TikTok.
They got a protected sandbox to play in.
A huge one. By putting up this massive digital firewall and keeping out established giants like Google or Facebook, they gave their own companies a captive domestic market. It let them mature, get a huge user base, develop world-class tech, and just achieve incredible scale before they ever had to face real international competition.
It's a very effective top-down way to incubate a globally competitive tech sector.
Extremely effective.
But then internationally, that entire policy just flips on its head.
Completely. Abroad, China becomes a champion for greater liberalization, especially in countries along its Belt and Road Initiative, the BRI. And this expansion is what's known as the Digital Silk Road.
So the Digital Silk Road, or DSR, that was announced back in 2015. It's the critical infrastructure piece of this whole strategy.
It is. It perfectly links the economic goals with the strategic influence. It's focused on 4 key areas of technology.
What are they?
First is laying down next-gen telecom and fiber optic cables. Second is exporting advanced tech like AI, quantum computing, and their Beidou satellite navigation system. Third is setting up international e-commerce zones. And fourth, and this is maybe the most crucial part, is pushing for the multilateral adoption of Chinese-led telecommunications standards.
So 5G infrastructure is just, absolutely central to the whole DSR project. This is where a company like Huawei becomes a core diplomatic actor.
Absolutely central. The rollout of 5G, mostly through Huawei, is what enables the whole Internet of Things future. Autonomous cars, smart cities, advanced AI.
All that stuff needs incredibly fast, reliable networks.
Exactly. So by positioning itself as the premier global provider of this core infrastructure, China dramatically reshapes its image. It becomes the country that builds the future economy for its partners.
But this is where the conversation gets a lot deeper. When we're talking about adopting Chinese-led standards in 5G, we're not just talking about faster download speeds. There are huge geopolitical stakes.
That's where the technical becomes geopolitical, for sure. When a country adopts a single-source vendor like Huawei for its critical national infrastructure, it creates a significant long-term dependence. People call it vendor lock-in.
Because once you've built your whole system on one company's tech, it's incredibly expensive and disruptive to switch.
Prohibitively so. And that dependence can translate directly into geopolitical leverage. On top of that, the push for Chinese standards for things like data encryption or network architecture, well, it means the whole global digital ecosystem starts to shift away from the Western-backed standards.
So it's not just about selling technology. It's about exporting a model of digital governance right along with the fiber optic cables.
Precisely. The goal of the DSR is to put China at the center of geopolitics and global standards setting. And yes, it involves spreading its concept of cyber sovereignty.
We need to define that term. What does cyber sovereignty mean in practical terms for a BRI partner?
It's the idea that a state government should have the right to control all internet traffic and content within its borders. Basically, treating the internet like a physical territory you can police.
So for a partner country, signing on to the DSR might also mean adopting similar cyber laws.
It often does. We've seen examples where BRI partners like Russia and Vietnam have passed new cyber laws that mirror China's tight control over internet content and censorship. It's part of a proactive global plan offering a stable Chinese-led vision for digital development.
So the infrastructure essentially exports the governance structure with the tech.
Yes, and that builds political relationships. It can even secure votes in key international bodies like the UN, where these telecom standards are decided.
It's an incredibly effective long-term way to build goodwill and deep political ties. It reminds me of the mask diplomacy during the pandemic.
It's a much more permanent technological version of that. It's a strategy for what some call smart power. You're balancing your rapid hard power growth, which can make neighbors nervous, with soft power in the form of trust, admiration, and indispensable tech partnerships.
You make yourself essential.
You make yourself essential, and that reduces the international friction from your rise.
Okay, so now let's move from that infrastructure layer to the content layer. This is where the algorithms really start doing the diplomatic work. China seems to have successfully overcome its old cultural trade deficit with what they're calling the new 3 hits.
That's such an important distinction. The new 3 hits are microdramas, video games, and online literature. And it's a huge shift from the old 3 hits, which might have been, Tai Chi classes or language centers.
Right.
This new content is so successful globally because it's built for the market. It's crafted using the universal languages of modern storytelling, which lets it just slide seamlessly into people's daily entertainment routines.
It bypasses the old gatekeepers. So let's start with C-dramas, Chinese dramas. They are exploding in popularity. Joy of Life Season 2 topped Disney Plus charts for Chinese language TV. Another show, The Legend of Shen Li, aired in 180 countries.
Yeah.
What is driving this massive global appeal?
Well, it's layered. Part of it is just the unique aesthetic. C-dramas have these incredibly detailed mythological universes that are totally distinct from what Hollywood or Korea are doing.
You're talking about genres like xianxia and wuxia.
Exactly. xianxia is the immortal heroes and fantasy genre, and wuxia is the martial arts world. They both offer these really compelling, exotic cultural symbols and a kind of escapism.
But it's not just the mythology, right? The modern stories are what's really accelerating the growth.
That's the real key. The drama set in modern urban China about workplace politics, romance, family pressures, they're taking off globally because the emotional architecture is completely universal.
And that universality is what makes the soft power so effective. It happens on such a personal, relatable level. Which brings us to that great anecdote about the marketing manager in Nairobi.
Nia's story is just a perfect microcosm of this. She wasn't looking for ancient Chinese philosophy. She just got hooked on a modern Shanghai drama about a young woman dealing with parents pushing her to get married, the stress of high rent, office politics.
All things a young professional anywhere in the world can relate to.
And she had this aha moment. She just thought, that is me. The specific cultural context of Shanghai was foreign, but the emotional reality of ambition and pressure was completely universal.
That's so interesting. It suggests that showing vulnerability, the messy, relatable parts of life, is actually a really powerful tool for building cross-cultural bridges.
It humanizes the source country. It shifts the perception of China from just this distant geopolitical player to a place filled with people who have the same struggles and dreams as you.
That deep connection through shared emotion is where the soft power really gets generated. It dismantles stereotypes without you even realizing it's happening.
You're just enjoying a show.
Okay, so from dramas to games, China has become an absolute global gaming powerhouse. So the gaming industry is now a critical channel for this kind of cross-cultural communication.
The scale is just staggering. Overseas sales hit over $16 billion in 2023. To give you some perspective, nearly a third of the world's top 100 highest-grossing mobile games outside of China are from Chinese publishers.
They're not just competing, they're dominating huge segments of the market.
And this is all driven by that commitment to high-quality growth and tech investment.
Exactly. The industry is pouring money into AI, cloud computing, XR, and it's leading to these incredibly advanced titles like Black Myth, Wukong.
A perfect example. It was developed on Unreal Engine 5. It's gotten global praise for its visuals, its combat. It signals that China can compete at the highest level of AAA console-quality game production. That showcases technological parity, if not superiority.
And these games are also really sophisticated in how they integrate culture. They're subtle cultural vehicles.
They are. A game like Genshin Impact is a masterclass in this.
Right.
It just organically weaves in things like tea ceremonies or elements of Nuo opera right into the gameplay. So you're sparking global curiosity about Chinese culture just through consumption.
It's not a lecture, it's part of the fun.
Exactly. And their communication strategy is also next level. They use something called transmedia storytelling.
Okay, that sounds complicated. Break that down for us.
It's a strategy that goes way beyond just promoting a game on different platforms. It's about intentionally spreading different pieces of the story, the lore, a character's backstory across multiple types of media.
So it's not just a game.
It's a game, plus a series of cinematic shorts on YouTube, plus a manga, plus music albums, and each piece gives you a unique, non-redundant part of the bigger story.
So to get the full picture, you have to engage with all of it.
Right. A game like Arknights does this brilliantly. You play the strategy game, but you might only learn about a character's tragic past by listening to a melancholic music album they released. It creates these huge, immersive story worlds that keep people engaged long-term.
And finally, we have microdramas. This short-form content has just exploded.
The scale is nuts. We're talking about apps like Real Short getting over 470 million downloads. And the breakthrough wasn't just the short, addictive format. It was the pivot from simple translation to full-on cultural localization.
What does that localization look like in practice? It's more than just subtitles.
Oh, way more. It's a huge investment. Instead of just translating Mandarin scripts, they're now casting local actors in, say, the US or Southeast Asia. They tailor the scripts, the settings, the jokes, the romantic tropes, everything to match what a local audience finds familiar and engaging.
So it feels native to that market.
It feels native. It reduces that cultural friction and allows the stories to bridge those gaps much more effectively. It's an incredibly sophisticated, market-driven approach to cultural export.
So if the new three hits are the cultural payload, then the platforms themselves, like TikTok, are the new diplomatic infrastructure. They're the delivery mechanism.
That's a perfect way to put it. These platform corporations are now de facto diplomatic actors, whether they want to be or not.
How so?
Because they provide the shared algorithmic environment for over 1 billion users. Their very architecture, how Netflix categorizes shows, how YouTube recommends videos, how TikTok curates the For You page. It all structurally shapes our cultural taste and our worldview in a way that's totally seamless.
And that's often more powerful than any overt political message.
Far more powerful. In this new system, content rearranges our sensibilities just by inviting us to consume it. It's a shift from believe this manifesto to watch this, enjoy this, use this.
It just bypasses all our normal intellectual defenses against propaganda.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The platform becomes the gatekeeper of what the world sees and how it sees it. State policy is often overshadowed by platform policy.
Let's focus specifically on TikTok then. It seems to have absolutely mastered this strategy of depoliticized engagement.
It really has. TikTok's entire brand is built around functionality, creativity, and pure fun. The tagline is "Make Your Day." It's all about hyper-personalization and joy.
The content is overwhelmingly non-political.
Overwhelmingly. It's daily life, hobbies, aesthetic trends. And this focus on depoliticization aligns perfectly with the strategic goal of promoting this peaceful world vision where everyone is just happily occupied with their own personal content loops.
And a huge part of its effectiveness, which is also what gets it into trouble, is the strategic decision to obscure its corporate origins.
Oh, that's absolutely strategic for 2 reasons: commercial success and soft power effectiveness. When the app obscures its direct ties to a state actor, say, by listing global offices everywhere but not really highlighting its Beijing origins, it massively increases its perceived objectivity.
Because if users thought the content was state-influenced propaganda,
its credibility would just collapse. The whole soft power objective fails. By appearing as this neutral, algorithm-run engine of fun, TikTok boosts both its market value and the efficiency of its cultural influence.
and the most powerful influence, as we saw with the C-dramas, bypasses geopolitics entirely. It just facilitates these personal connections based on shared aesthetics or emotions. Let's talk about that anecdote of Sarah, the student in Ohio.
Sarah's experience is the perfect illustration of what you could call the algorithmic mirror effect. She wasn't on the app looking for political news. She was just a teenager looking for self-expression.
Right?
The algorithm, acting like a silent diplomat, starts feeding her these Han food transformation videos, this modernized traditional Chinese dress, and all these ultra-modern Chinese street fashion trends.
So for her, China is instantly redefined.
Completely. It's no longer the geopolitical rival from the news. It's the source of her cool. It's the origin of the subculture that defines her high school identity.
The platform just totally bypassed language, trade wars, all of it, to create this direct personal connection.
And she's exchanging tips with users in Hangzhou and Brazil, all united by this aesthetic code that was curated by the platform. The cultural origin is secondary to the shared experience, but the experience is intrinsically tied to the source culture.
And then there's the other side of that coin.
Yeah.
The experience of Liam, the cynical engineer in London who finds a digital sanctuary.
Right, the silent sanctuary. His story shows how this very subtle, quiet content can overcome deep political cynicism. He's burned out, skeptical of all politics.
So what does the algorithm show him?
It identifies his need for tranquility and pushes him a video from a rural Sichuan creator. There's no talking, no politics. It's just the ambient sound of rain, someone chopping bamboo, the process of making soy sauce, and he finds peace in it.
A simple video of someone making soy sauce can do more than years of geopolitical reporting.
It completely bypassed his cynicism. The platform let a totally apolitical rural creator become this incredibly effective cultural ambassador, speaking directly to Liam's psychological need for peace. That's more influential than any traditional diplomacy could ever be.
These two stories really show that political effects in this era emerge directly from our personal emotions, our consumption habits, and the design of the platforms we use. But we do have to talk about the fact that political topics do come up. And when they do, the platform's positioning becomes a lot more visible.
This is the most critical part of the algorithmic diplomacy. When a topic is controversial, the platform has to work really hard to maintain that illusion of objectivity. As we said, if users think it's state-influenced, credibility plummets. So the goal isn't crude censorship, it's subtle steering.
So how does that subtle steering actually work?
It's a set of sophisticated technical tactics. It's not usually outright deletion because that's easy to spot and criticize. Instead, you have things like shadow banning.
So the content is still there, but basically invisible.
Its mathematical visibility, its ranking in the For You feed is just throttled. It's also about keyword suppression in trending topics and a kind of mathematical prioritization. Some studies suggest the algorithm can be designed to rank pro-government content higher than critical content, even if the critical videos have more raw engagement.
So the efficiency of the soft power is directly tied to keeping up that illusion of being a neutral, fun-first platform.
It has to appear that way. It quietly guides users toward the more positive, harmonious content that supports that broader narrative of stability and cultural sophistication.
The tech and the platforms are the new diplomats.
Right.
The battleground is our emotional engagement.
That's it. Exactly.
So if we pull all of this together, from the state-led strategic plan and the hard infrastructure of the digital Silk Road, all the way to the content and the subtle algorithmic steering, what's the central finding we should take away from this?
I think the central finding is a fundamental redefinition of what power even is. Culture has really evolved from just being a consumable good into a form of power itself. It's a political arena that now often overwhelms or just bypasses the traditional state.
So political effects aren't just coming from treaties or press conferences anymore.
No, they emerge directly from our personal emotions, our consumption patterns, how young people form their identities, and just our daily use of these algorithmic platforms.
So that moment I saw at the beginning of our deep dive, my friend paralyzed by the Netflix menu, that small, seemingly trivial choice really wasn't passive at all.
Not at all. The flaws of cultural content and the design decisions of these global tech platforms are now structurally rearranging the balance of international power. The critical battlefield has shifted entirely to that silent, invisible feedback loop between a consumer and a platform.
It shows that the real power lies in the ability of these platforms to subtly steer our behavior, to cultivate these shared aesthetic codes, and to just rearrange our global sensibilities through personalized, high-quality, emotionally resonant content.
The ultimate power belongs to the architecture that dictates what you see next.